to another edition of Metis Warrior here with Timothy and Alexandria.
Hello, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well and getting ready for Halloween.
So today we got a special treat for you today. During halfway through the show here, you will hear a story for Halloween, a Halloween story. Not really a Halloween story, it's really a Métis / Indigenous story, but you will hear a story that we're presenting to you for the Halloween special, which is today. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about race shifting. And I want people to utilize some common sense out there. Why are you believing people that go online and they claim that these certain people are not indigenous, certain people are not Métis, when these people making these posts have not seen the genealogy of the people that they have decided to attack? Most recently, Iskoe Megan, she got attacked, and it turns out she is Métis. She actually held an MMF card. Just because she did not renew her MMF membership did not mean that she was not Métis. Having an MMF card or not having one, when you have an MMF card, if you do not renew your Manitoba Métis Federation card, guess what? It doesn't mean that you stop being Métis. So what I want people to do, stop joining the bandwagon and attacking people without seeing people's genealogy. And next time you hear somebody say, "Oh, this person's not Métis," ask them straight up, "Have you seen their genealogy? Have they seen their genealogy? If not, they're flat out liars, and you cannot trust an individual that attacks somebody." And I cannot believe that people would actually believe these people. Now, again, race shifting is a real thing. Now, there is people out there that pretend to be indigenous, that pretend to be Métis, they pretend to be whatever. Race shifting is out there, and it's all for the dollars. It really happens. However, in many cases, real Métis people have been attacked and accused of race shifting, and we're going to deal with one of those instances today.
Well, what we're really talking about today, and there's so much to unpack in this story as I still look into it, and it's in regards to Megan Meisters, and she's using the Cree name Iskoe, and Iskoe means woman in Cree, and it's been determined that she is Métis of Cree heritage, so she has every single right to use the name Iskoe, for that matter. I'm a Métis with Cree heritage, and if I want to use the name Iskoe, I can use it as well. Nobody owns a name. There's no trademark. There's no ownership of a name. There's a lot of confusion, and I think, in my opinion, this stems from a lot of confusion where people are not understanding what it is to be Métis. It's a very complex identity where you have your part indigenous and of course part European, and unfortunately European happens to be white. We can't get away from that, and a lot of First Nation tribal people don't have a grasp on what it is to be Métis. And again, it is very, very complex, and that's where some of the misunderstanding and, in my opinion, this smear campaign, public shaming, this witch hunt against Megan Meisters, with going full bore without getting all the information, just going out there all over social media, demanding this, demanding that, and you haven't seen their genealogy. And that's not the way of Indigenous people. And
And
really,
actually, that's slander, and
and
people can be liable for slander and defamation. And I think people need to realize that before they recklessly start joining people out here, attacking people, and lying about people. And all that's for gain, financial gains, professional jealousy in a lot of cases, or uh, other political reasons why people do things like this. And it is absolutely wrong. Utilize common sense. It's a basic sense that you have, is common sense. Use it. Now, if you have a higher intellect and a very educational higher intellect, you can use that as well. But let's try to at least engage our common sense And when you see somebody out there spouting off at the mouth about somebody not being Métis, why don't you say, have you seen their genealogy? Point blank.
Yeah, that's right. So before you jump on this bandwagon, get your facts straight. And one telling thing in regards to professional jealousy could be, I mean, Megan Iskaway has won so many awards. Juno, winning artist, named one of the 10 artists to watch in 2016 by CBC Music. And the list goes on of the awards that Iskaway Megan achieved. So that could lend into the professional jealousy and all that too. There's so many dimensions to this story, but the biggest top of the pyramid is the alleged Manitoba Métis Federation letter dated December 15th, 2021. This is the crux of this public shaming and this smear campaign against Megan. And what gives another twist to this unbelievable horror story, in my mind, is the involvement, the alleged involvement of APTN Melissa Ridgen, who is now the Past in Focus uh, host. And really, it's alleged that she leaked flawed research to possibly, allegedly, defame the Métis singer Iskaway again. And this is where the crux of it, where this letter came to be from the Manitoba Métis Federation. And it's really telling that on September 27th, 2022, using the official APTN in Focus Twitter, Melissa is saying, "Hi, it's Melissa from In Focus. I've been trying to email you all day to the email on your website, and it's bouncing back." And she's trying to get a hold of the Race Shifter Twitter account, and she said, "Can you send me an email to region at aptn.ca Marseille?" And then Race Shifter responds to say, "Finally, the email Addy," and gives the email is working. "Please feel free to resend." So Melissa is desperately trying to get a hold of Race Shifter account by email September 27th, 2022.
And is this what APTN has resulted to? We know from our own experience of dealing with APTN that they would not cover certain stories. That's why Métis Warrior started, is because other news outlets were not covering certain stories like CBC, APTN. And APTN, we actually spoke with several reporters before we ever started Métis Warrior, and they just flat out refused to cover certain stories. So we always thought that there was a little bit of shady business going on there, and a little bit like, what was this financially motivated to not cover certain stories? That was one of the questions we was asking ourselves at the time, and we couldn't understand why they would not cover certain stories. Were they being paid? Were they benefiting financially from certain organizations that they just did not want to cover certain stories? And I think once an organization starts to do that and claim to bring you the news, you're going to get a very biased news. Like with us, you get the news. We cover any story, any organization. Well, it doesn't matter. We're going to bring you the news. Now, APTN has been a huge disappointment, and now to see that they have resulted to putting on attacks, with their reporters at least are putting on attacks of our people, of our Métis people. This is absolutely wrong that this would happen. As Alexandria was saying, through an official APTN
In Focus
and
Twitter account.
yeah, and I mean, why was this happening? And again, you personally reached out to the MMF, several people there, and asked if this letter was real, which is, we got. You would think that if it was fake, that somebody would have told us, "Hey, this letter's fake." Nobody said it was fake. Nobody's responded to us it was fake. Instead, they have not answered the question. They have, and then you got to wonder, why would the MMF do this to their own citizens? Why would they give out information? Now, when I see their own citizens, okay, you got to understand what Iskaway Megan, that she was an MMF citizen at one time, she decided not to renew her citizenship. So knowing that she didn't want to renew her citizenship, when they obviously when they were searching to see if she was currently an MMF citizen at that time, she wasn't going to be because she did not renew her citizenship. But why would somebody be willing to deal with a reporter who is on social media with, at least it seems to us, bad intentions, dealing with putting out attacks on certain individuals out there? What is the true motivations for these reporters? And this is just one reporter that got caught up in this because her name is, it is, this letter is actually addressed to her. So yeah, if you know somebody who's been out there associating with these race shifting social media pages, why would the MMF allow correspondence to this reporter?
Well, the thing is, we know if you even Google it, Melissa Ridgeon indicates that she's a proud Red River Métis. But the most telling thing too is that Melissa has on social media has had conversations where she says, an example, I quote, "DM me. I need to see this. I'm collecting them on a list." So she's collecting a pretend Indian list, and another person is answering Melissa, "I have for future exposure list." He he he. So Melissa Ridgeon has been doing a list of pretend Indians for quite a while, where she's compiling information. And at one point here,
For participating in this type of behavior and defaming and slandering people that actually are Métis.
well, Melissa says in another online conversation that she says APTN isn't comfortable doing it, so I've started a list. But this is while she's still in the capacity of the host of APTN in Focus. So she's saying APTN as a whole isn't comfortable, but she's compiling a list on her own. So that's through conversations and social media. So it makes sense that this December 15th, 2021 alleged MMF letter, and it wasn't even blacked out enough. You can clearly see that this alleged letter is addressed to Melissa Ridgeon, who is the APTN in Focus host. So apparently she's been compiling this list on her own for quite a while. And the another telling thing is that the alleged MMF letter was released on social media one day after Melissa contacted the Race Shifter account asking desperately for their email. So one day after this Twitter conversation, this MMF letter hit social media with a complete vengeance.
We call that connecting the dots, folks. Connecting the dots. Obviously, the letter, it was addressed to her, and then obviously she's trying to contact this other uh, uh, social media outlet or page or whatever, however you want to call it. And then next thing you know, the letters everywhere. And so this was a deliberate attack on Iskaway Megan, and we don't understand why. That's the thing about it. Like, we don't understand why. One of the things that I want to say is, all right, there could be professional jealousy. That could be one reason. Maybe people do not like the fact that she gets booked at certain events that they may not have get booked at. Now, prior to doing this show, I have not heard Iskaway Megan's music. I have not heard other people's music that I guess were complaining about her. And so, but I would like to say I intentionally did not want to hear music because I'm gonna make a very general statement. Maybe your music is not as good as her music, and that may be why you did not get booked at the event. I don't know.
And it's also been brought to light that this alleged MMF letter is full of completely misleading errors. And Megan or Iskaway did on March 2021 say that she was not going to be renewing her MMF card. And keep in mind, folks, if you're not in the know with Métis, a plastic card does not make you Métis. No laminated card on this planet is going to make you Métis. You're not going to be more Métis than somebody else that doesn't choose to get a plastic laminated card. It has nothing to do with a plastic card.
And so the wrongs here is by, in our eyes, by the MMF for even releasing any information pertaining to what could be a potential citizen to an APTN reporter, and for an APTN reporter to be working, and again, we see this as wrong, working on something that can actually go against or try to slander or defame an individual that actually is Métis. Now, you would have to think that this reporter was possibly playing on the fact that there would be a technicality. So, if this reporter knew that Iskaway Megan was not renewing her citizenship card with the MMF, then she would have to know, it would be very possible that she would know that by sending a question like this, that she would get a response back, no, that this person is not a citizen of the MMF. Does not mean that they're not Métis. And then she could turn that and try to twist it and use it to make people possibly think that this person is not Métis. So we don't know what the true intentions was of this reporter, but we do know what the results were, and the results were slander, defamation, and attacks on Iskaway Megan, and it was wrong. Somebody at the MMF needs to stand up, and you reached out to them many times, and they have not had the balls or the courage to address the issue. And they either need to say the letter was photoshopped and it was fake, or they need to say, yeah, the letter was real, and we made a huge mistake here. And they should probably uh, put the person who sent the email to this reporter in a different position. But of course, we know in the past we've had a lot of problems with the MMF, right? A lot of problems with the MMF up until recently. Now we were heading in a good direction. I did not want to do this show. I don't even like the fact that we have to cover this, that the MMF is here again, in our eyes, screwing up by allowing somebody. I don't think it's right. Do you think it's right?
No, I don't think it's right. And like I said, the Manitoba Métis Federation are notorious. If you're saying something on social media that is dead wrong, they're going to give you an answer like lightning speed. So for them to completely ignore people that have contacted them about this alleged letter and dead silence, I mean, that speaks volumes. And again,
And they shouldn't be silenced. My point was they should speak up and say, "Hey, we're removing that person that sent that email. We're removing that person and putting them in a different position, and putting somebody there, or they're going to retrain individuals not to reach out to, not to respond to reporters about their citizens or their former citizens. To me, that seems like it could be a privacy issue. I don't know. That's the way that I view it. In my opinion, I would be a little concerned if knowing that in just any organization is talking about their citizens or former citizens to reporters. I don't get that. I know we've contacted many organizations over the years, and I don't think that we've ever asked personal questions like that about citizens.
well, no, and I don't think it's right. And it's curious on that same note that numerous people reached out to APTN and to Melissa Ridgen, both publicly and privately, on September 30th, 2022. No response. And then we all know that on social media, Melissa had so many different conversations about her pretend Indian list. And then suddenly, just suddenly, after this MMF letter hit social media and it was made known that it was addressed to Melissa Ridgen, suddenly, and we don't know, we're just going to assume after 13 years as APTN and Focus host, Melissa Ridgen is no longer at APTN. And
And you got to wonder if that was a result of her doing what she did, the controversy there. Did they say, hey, we don't want this shit? Or did they already know about it, but the fact that it's been exposed and is out, because they would have had to know that she had an interest in it, because she said that they didn't feel comfortable doing it. So she had to at least express to somebody there that this is what the type of stuff that she was doing, it appears to us that this would have to be a conversation she had with some of the people at APTN, and she said that they didn't feel comfortable doing it, and so maybe they just weren't going to say nothing about it until obviously it got exposed. This level of BS bullshit that is being happening through the APTN official Twitter account of a reporter there, and so maybe that's why she ended up having to leave. I assume that, and this Iskaway Megan is a Red River Métis. This is the crazy shit. So you got to wonder why in the hell, what's the real motivation of people attacking her? I don't get it. I mean, you know, we see the attacks on other people across the nation over and over and over again, and it's very rare that we see attacks on within. So you got to wonder what really went down.
Well, I'm digging into it more, and like I said, I really don't think, and this is just my opinion, my assumption, that they would think that people would find out that this alleged MMF letter was addressed to Melissa Ridgen. Like you said, APTN, as the company was not. Did not want to get involved in these pretend Indian lists. Melissa went off on her own and was collecting a list for whatever reason. We know that she's a Red River Métis, so let's just connect the dots. And
But
I,
hold on, I want to say something before you go into that. This is something that I wanted to say at the beginning. But I just now remembered. All right, so all this race shifting talk, right? People are saying this person's not Métis, that person's not Métis, right? But tell me, how in the hell is it that organizations let people self-identify as Métis, so people can just say, "Oops, I self-identify as Métis," and give them cards? I don't understand that. I'm speaking in general, not any specific organizations, because there's several organizations that do this. We know in our last show we covered the Métis Nation of British Columbia. They had what, 90,000, I think.
mm-hmm.
Go back and check out, I guess, but 90,000 people that self-declared as Métis. How in the hell is that possible? So anybody can just say they're Métis and get a car. I'm still working on that through my mind there and trying to figure out how is that even possible that people can just self-identify, and then on the flip of the script you turn around and say this person's not Métis, this person's not Métis. And a lot of people that's been accused of not being Métis, we've seen the genealogy, and they've shown us their genealogy, and they absolutely are Métis. And so, but there is some race shifters out there, and there's some people pretending to be Métis. We're not saying they're not. There definitely is. However, there's been Métis that can prove that they're Métis. Now, I'm not talking about the self-identifiers, but the ones that can prove that they're Métis that have been attacked.
Well, I think the crux of this information is they're now wanting Iskaway to stop using that Cree name. It's been established. I'm sorry to burst the bubble, folks. Megan is Métis with Cree ancestry, so she has every right to use that word. So that's where the misconception. First, she's this, she wasn't this. They've changed direction, changed lanes so many bloody times they can't get their stories straight. And interesting enough, I did ask Paul Barnsley, who is the executive producer investigative at APTN, and I asked him, I said, what the heck's going on at APTN? Point blank, what is going on at APTN? And he answered me and he said, Melissa jumped over to Global, and Paul did confirm that Melissa was looking into this. So he did confirm that she was looking into all this pretend Indian Iskaway Megan Meisters. It just.
But she's working on that list or whatever. But then going back to the self-identifiers, to 90,000, which I don't get it. 90,000 people self-identifying. It seems like it's just a huge play for money, tax dollars there. Because if you can beef up your numbers, okay, we'll let 90,000 people self-identify. If that was the number, I can't remember, but I know it was thousands and thousands of Métis that were self-identifying. Uh, and then beef up the numbers to get more tax dollars from the Canadian government. So I don't get it. I don't know how this is allowed or how this is possible.
Well, for me, the most mind boggling part with this public shaming is that Copies of Megan's ancestors' script records were posted on public social media and were shared online, and it does verify that she is Red River Métis. Also, a 1901 census for Selkirk, Manitoba, Megan's direct ancestral grandparents, William Lyons, Alice Lyons, and their family are clearly listed as, and wait for it, folks, Cree. Cree. She is Cree.
She can use whatever Cree name she wants to use. Yeah, so she can call herself Iskaway. I mean, I don't get it. Why people are upset about that? I really don't. There's got to be something deeper that went down for them to actually go after this woman. I don't understand why. I don't know. I mean, because it was a whole level of attacks by various people. And I think that now that these same people know that they're wrong and they know that this woman is absolutely Métis, that these people have committed slander and defamation against Iskaway Megan.
I think really everybody has to sort of grasp, because the timeline of this public shaming smear campaign of Iskaway Megan Meisters is so very, very important. We know that on social media, on Facebook, she announced on March 2021 that she was letting her Manitoba Métis Federation citizenship lapse. And then we know that the alleged MMF letter was dated December 15th, 2021. And then we have again Melissa Ridgen from APTN in Focus desperately trying to email the Race Shifter Twitter account. And then the day after that, this alleged MMF letter hit social media like a vengeance. And whoever was sharing it didn't blacken it out enough where it can clearly state that it is addressed to Melissa Ridgen of APTN. And was, this is my opinion, this is alleged and really fruit for thought, was the goal of the Manitoba Métis Federation letter allegedly addressed to again Melissa Ridgen intended to take credibility and visibility away from Megan among Indigenous mover and shakers? Because man, Megan, you've got a lot of awards out there. Juno Award winner. You're going places. You're in Los Angeles. You're here. You got venues. Coming out of the yin yang. You're really a mover or shaker.
And let's just say this, we know that MMF has not been supportive of some artists out there. And this is taking it to a whole new level to help slander and defame somebody. When I say help, I mean obviously this letter, and we can connect the dots. All the proof is there. Think about it like this: Alexandria released a book on Comfort Grant. The MMF refused to support it. Actually, what they said was that unless it had national media coverage, that they were not going to support this book. They were not going to carry the book, and that's weird that they would say that to an artist. This is way before Métis Warrior started, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so to get that type of response, and we still have the response if they want to try to dispute that, but they said they would not carry this book, carry the damn book, carry the book and put it in any of their buildings or anything unless it had national media coverage. So we do know that they have not been supportive of Métis artists out there, so at least some Métis artists out there. Alexandria being a Métis author, and of course Iskaway Megan. It seems like not only not support. I don't know if they've ever supported anything she's done before. So I can't say if they have or they haven't. But clearly, using this letter, sending out a letter like this to a reporter that had bad intentions. Obviously, if you connect the dots, then you could see where this letter ended up, because it just didn't stay with her. It actually ended up in other places, to use this letter to try to slander this woman and try to defame this woman. This is very concerning. Again, we were heading in a good direction with the MMF, but here we go with the dirty bullshit again, and I do not really like it. I don't like it at all, and it's very disappointing.
Well, it wasn't just me, it was several people that reached out to the Manitoba Métis Federation to ask if this letter was legit. Dead silence. So there you go. And again, Megan Meisters did say publicly on social media, March 2021, that she did not want to be a colonial number. I mean, I'm not going to read the whole statement, that she did not want to be a colonial number. There was some bullying and some other stuff going on, and she was going to let her citizenship with the Manitoba Métis Federation lapse, not renew it. That's her right. And you know what, folks? That does not make her less Métis. Magically, poof, you're not Métis. It don't work like that in the real world. And I think people, you need to wake up, shake your head, dust yourself off. And there's been so much information that has been posted. Clearly, Megan is a Red River Métis with Cree background. She has every right to use the name Iskaway if she would like to. And this public shaming is a bunch of bogus BS.
And I don't want to let one bad person at the MMF who did something very wrong in our eyes spoil the whole of the MMF. So, like, we know not everybody at the MMF was involved in this attempt to slander and defame this lady. We cannot get anybody to step up to the plate and say, hey, we had somebody make a huge mistake. We apologize for that. That would just be the right thing to do. We know there's a lot of good people at the MMF. We do know that. This is not us going against the MMF. This is us going against certain behaviors of some people at the Manitoba Métis Federation, and it's just wrong. You cannot allow people to attack citizens or former citizens. And one other thing I want to say, in March of 2021, a lot of people were not happy with the Manitoba Métis Federation. A lot of people were not happy. So you got to realize, for her not to decide at that point that she was not going to renew her membership was perfectly understandable at that time. Did they get butthurt about that? Or what really happened?
True democracy of any government is your citizens have a right to ask questions and receive answers without being ostracized or hung out to dry. That should be your right. We know that's not always the case. And it's interesting enough that magically uh, uh, a letter from the Métis Nation of Ontario got thrown into the mix saying that here's that date again. Remember that date, March 2021, where apparently they're saying in this alleged letter that the PR team of Megan was trying to get her citizenship in the Métis Nation of Ontario. Can you believe it? Why would is that legally right? Can a PR team apply on the behalf of an individual? I really don't think so.
Well,
And
that
they're
was something that was on Twitter, right? We don't know if that's actual fact or false.
Well, there's several people that are citizens of the Métis Nation of Ontario that I've spoken with, and they say allegedly that this letter is fraudulent. This is allegedly. They verified that the Métis Nation of Ontario would never write a letter saying that. So again, that's another attempt to throw another Métis organization. But if
But
you're
but but I want to clarify this because there's a lot of people out there that may have spaced out for just a moment. Uh the letter from the MNO they're saying is fraudulent, not the letter we've been talking about from the MMF.
Well, you know what? It's just the dates that they're using the same date, March 2021. And like I said, folks, I'm still looking in to connect, tighten all the dots. So this is just, the beginnings of my looking into it. And again, I'm really disgusted on how people with no evidence, nothing, can just go out full speed ahead in a public shaming, calling somebody a race shifter. First, she's not Métis. Okay, then they're changing lanes. She's not Cree. Guess what, folks? She's always been Métis. She's always been Cree. And if she wants to use that name, Iskaway, she can use it just like me. If I want to use that name, I'll use it whether you like it or not.
She
You don't
didn't
have to
just
like it.
she didn't just wake up one day and say, "Oh, I'm gonna identify as Métis today." No, she has the damn genealogy to prove it.
And there was an elder that has passed away that had given her that name. So I mean, there is a whole story behind this. These people are just picking and choosing what they want to embellish and just running for it. Like I said, I'm just completely disgusted on the climate that is going on in Canada with these witch hunts, pretend Indian. Yeah, there are some out there, but don't
Well,
pick.
there's a lot out
Well,
there.
there is, but I mean, if you're jealous of somebody because they've got all these awards, and the crux of it is that she got all this grant money, Indigenous grant money, but guess what? She's Indigenous. If she's applied for it, she's entitled to it because guess what? She's in Métis, Cree, you're Indigenous. Get over it.
And I know there's some people, some die hard, some hardcore MMF people that no matter what the MMF does, they're always going to take up for the MMF and they're never going to say anything negative about the MMF. You have to admit that what happened here was wrong. To us, it was wrong. I see it as being wrong. Alexandria sees it as being wrong. A lot of MMF citizens see this as being wrong. But there's those few people, those handful of people, 5 to 10 people, that's going to say, oh, no, nothing was wrong with this. Okay, no, it is. And we're calling it out. And again, I didn't really want to have to do another show talking negatively about the Manitoba Métis Federation. But when stuff like this happens and you attack a Red River Métis or any Métis, but when you attack a Métis, then yeah, we're going to step up to the plate and we're going to cover the damn story. And so it's unfortunate that this behavior happened. And they were having this conversation with a reporter who clearly had a very bad agenda would get this information.
Yeah, yeah, but a lot of people are wondering too. Now that Melissa Ridgeon, who used to be at APTN and Focus, she's now moved over to Global News. Is she bringing over to Global News her pretend Indian list? I mean, the Global News is not an Indigenous news network. So somebody that's been at APTN for 13 years, why would you jump to a TV station that is not Indigenous when you are Indigenous? I don't know how a pretend Indian list is going to fly with global news. We'll have to wait and see if she conducts herself in the same way as she did being the host of APTN in Focus, because we know that many times she had Daryl LaRoe on the show. So that shows the caliber of what she was trying to do.
And can you believe that she went to Global News? I mean, it's like, wow, they got a real winner there. At least that's what we were told. We were told that she jumped over to Global News. And if that's the case, then yeah, wow, she got they got a real winner with that one, huh? And reporters ain't what they used to be. They're just not. You got reporters that don't want to report unbiased news. They want to just report what their real hidden agenda is, and they're going to do things to cause drama in the nation.
And you know what? The very sick and scary feeling out there is that you can put something in front of someone's face. It could be the color red, and it's the color red, and these people will call it blue or a different color because they are so brainwashed with this agenda, and they're for a sense of getting on the, jumping on the bandwagon. People present you with facts, and you still will not get off of this public shaming, and you're still on this vendetta or whatever this mission is to try and destroy this individual who is clearly Métis, Indigenous, Cree. So
This is very horrible that this even happened. And with that, though, I think we possibly should end this portion of the show and go into the Halloween thing.
well, yeah, we're gonna leave this, and like I said, I have a lot of respect for Iskaway Megan Meisters. I wouldn't answer any of you either because I wouldn't give you the time of day. I would just leave it at that and keep using the name Iskaway. Keep using it and keep doing your music. Keep doing what you're doing. And
Well, I'm not going to say that. And you say you have respect for her. I don't know her, so I'm not going to give my respect to somebody I don't know. I don't know this Iskaway Megan. Regardless, we did the show because she's a Métis and she got attacked wrongfully. but she don't have my respect because I don't know her. I'm not disrespecting her. Obviously, we just took up for her in the show, but you have to earn my respect. And not saying that you haven't. I haven't heard your music. I probably wouldn't like it because I'm more of a '70s and '80s type of music person. But we thought that we should step up. Alexandria, obviously, seems to like you and respect you. I can't say that. I don't know who you are or what type of person you are, so I would need to get, you would need to earn my respect.
Well, I'm saying that because her story or her genealogy part of her family history almost mirrors mine. So I can relate to that individual. And again, a lot of these individuals that are not Métis, I would maybe make it a mission to learn what a Métis person is because it is Indigenous and European is white. So maybe before you go on a witch hunt and you slander somebody, maybe learn and really think about what you're doing because it's very damaging and very destructive. And today we're going to go into a story that I have always found fascinating, and I revisit this story around Halloween. Halloween is one of my favorite holidays, has been since I was a child, always will be. And it's even more fascinating because a lot of my own family comes from St. Francis Xavier in Manitoba, Canada. And this is a very amazing Métis legend. I don't know if you've heard of it. And it's a Rougalou story, La Robe Rouge, and or it's The Red Dress by Henri Letteroux. And the story goes as this: the lady who told the story in 1969 was born in 1885, and it is about a werewolf. It was when it was time to pick Saskatoons. People from St. Francis Xavier and Bay St. Paul went to Grand Couteau to pick them. Everyone went by cart, and it was 12 miles from St. Francis Xavier. And Modeste came from elsewhere, but his wife was born in the parish. He was a good worker, singer, and fiddler, and people did not know much about his past. And his wife was Euphrophones, and they were all ready to leave to go picking, and she had a new dress she had made, and she was excited to have that new dress. And she made note, her husband would look at her times very strangely, and she asked her husband if he liked the dress that she had made. And it was Indian dress calico with red flowers. He responded harshly and said, "No, I did not notice the dress, but it is nice." And Modeste he stopped the horses and told his wife to take the reins. He was going into the woods to find enough wood to repair pasture posts. And a short time, the horses were going faster, and something had really scared the horses. And suddenly, she saw a huge black dog close to the cart, and the dog seemed to have really seemed to have only one thing in mind, to jump into the cart. And the dog succeeded to rip her new dress with his teeth. And when they approached the other group of travelers, the dog mysteriously disappeared. And the eldest of the other group said they were very sure it was a dog, but it was most likely a wolf. And she did notice the look on the dog or the wolf's face was similar to her husband, Modeste. And she then reflected on everything as she began to pick Saskatoons. And when her husband finally arrived, he was mysteriously out of breath, very hot, and soaked in sweat. She told him what happened, and he teased her. The imagination can make you see funny things. She never told him about the ripped dress, though. Once home, she changed her dress and began to make supper. Modeste was in a good mood. She noticed he had something red between his teeth, and she mentioned it to him, and he asked her to remove it for him. She got a pin and saw it was a red thread from her dress. He asked what it was, and she responded, "Nothing." She was upset, and she would not dare say anything to her neighbors. She recalled for several years her husband would at times in the night not be at her side, and she would always he would always have an excuse. A horse was stuck, there was a noise in the barn, and several months later, Modeste was working in the woods, and she decided to go get the cows. And while opening the pasture gates, she saw a stick resting against the fence, and something told her to take the stick. And she was herding the cows with the stick when she heard a noise from the riverbank. She saw the same animal that had been on the path. Eyes red like embers, and saliva came out of each side of its open mouth, showing enormous pointed teeth. And it pounced on it, and she struck it on the nose with a blow from her stick. And the wolf howled in pain, and it rolled on the ground and fell into the undergrowth. And she heard a groan, and she approached the thicket, and it seemed as though the groans came from a human, not an animal. She slowly moved to where the groans were coming from. She saw Modeste laying on his back, blood running from his nose, and she removed her apron, wet it in the river, and went to wash his face. And Modeste opened his eyes, and he said to his wife, "I could not have told you I was a werewolf when I attacked you on the path. I hoped you would have hit me on the nose with the whip, because the only way I could be released was if someone hit me on the nose hard enough so I bled, and it had to be when I was under the spell or being under of a wolf. So I thank you. I am freed forever." So, in conclusion, the grandmother telling the story to her children would say, if they did not die, they would live again. So this family from St. Francis Xavier in Manitoba were good neighbors. The lady was born there, and her husband was from elsewhere, and they had lived there for about 10 years or so, and people didn't know about his past, and they did not discuss it. So I think that's a very interesting story, or a Métis legend from St. Francis Xavier in Manitoba. The Rougarou story about Le Robe Rouge, or the red dress. So again, in line with uh, Halloween, and there's just so many Métis legends out there. I think this one was sort of fitting in regards to, again, St. Francis Xavier, Manitoba is a huge Métis community out there.
Uh, and obviously, that was our Halloween episode. I hope you liked it. And if you get anything out of this, I hope it's to stop attacking people and saying that they're not indigenous or they're not Métis if you have not seen their genealogy. And at least you need to have a basic understanding of genealogy. There's some people out there that don't, and they claim to be genealogists. But if you haven't seen somebody's genealogy, you need to stop attacking people, because that's just pure, in my mind, that's just ignorant. So,
It's just totally wrong. And like I said, the current climate in Canada with these pretend Indian race shifters is gone out of control. Yes, they exist. We know there's lots of them, but for God's sakes, make sure that you're not smearing, public shaming people that are truly Métis Indigenous. It's just wrong, and it's not. It all goes down, I think, to professional jealousy. It's got to stop.
and MMF, y'all are on a good roll. Y'all need to stop behavior like this from happening, where citizens are getting attacked with it from within the Manitoba Métis Federation. It makes no sense for someone to try to help somebody go after a former citizen That doesn't mean that they're former Métis. You're Métis, you're Métis. But I mean, or even a current citizen, it makes no sense to us to do that. You're supposed to be there to work for the people. And this was an issue and an instance of working against the people. Now, how are you working for the people if you're working against the Métis people? And this was a clear-cut case of that, and that is wrong. Any Métis organization is supposed to represent the Métis people. They're supposed to help the Métis people. They're not supposed to go after and attack their own citizens. It just makes no sense to me. And I'm not saying the whole MMF was doing that, but if you have employees or people working there that are part of that process of attacking citizens or former citizens, then that is wrong, and you just need to admit it.
That's right. And like I said, again, using the Cree word has nothing to do with Métis. So there's just so many elements involved in this, and it's just dead wrong. And like I said, I will continue to look into this to tighten connecting the dots, because I'm sure there's a lot more.
And she can use the term or word Iskaway any damn time she feels like. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.